Mr. President, Excellencies, while the world's attention is often focused on the devastating wars raging today, another insidious crisis affecting millions of people unfolds away from the headlines. Our world is scarred by deep inequalities within and between countries. In 2024, almost 300 million people globally suffered from crisis-level food insecurity, which is a record high. Some 3.4 billion lacked access to sanitation, and 251 million children and youth are still out of school due to conflict, underinvestment in education, gender inequality, and other obstacles. More than 40% of the global population live in countries that spend more on servicing their debt than on education or health. And the development finance they need is dwindling, as major economies shift their priorities and expand defense budgets to record levels. Nearly 2/3 of the world's poorest people live in middle-income countries, demonstrating that governments also need to tackle inequality at the national level. Over half the world's population work in the informal economy, often without access to social security or other forms of protection. Women are particularly overrepresented. Trade wars always hit the most vulnerable hardest. Higher tariffs could put healthcare and education out of reach for many. They disproportionately affect jobs traditionally done by women, threatening to undo progress on gender equality. Corruption and illicit financial flows continues to steal common resources that should benefit all. Laws and policies from countries around the world continue to perpetuate discrimination against marginalized groups, including minorities, indigenous peoples, people with disabilities, older people, and people in rural areas. Distinguished delegates, realizing all economic, social, and cultural rights for all people is one of the best ways to reduce these unacceptable disparities. And there have been important global efforts to address inequalities. The Pact for the Future, adopted last year, calls for reforming our international financial system, tackling the high cost of debt, and strengthening representation of developing countries in decision-making. The Sevilla commitment, adopted at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, reaffirms that economic, social, and cultural rights are vital to reducing inequalities, promoting inclusion, and fostering sustainable development. I urge all countries to work together to implement the pact and the commitment. At the national level, my office is assisting states to meet their human rights obligations and to help make positive, lasting change in people's lives. My office is advocating for a human rights economy in which all economic policies, from taxation and public spending to climate action and the just transition, focus on advancing human rights. For example, in Chile, we held a workshop on embedding economic, social, and cultural rights in budget processes and led a regional dialogue in the Caribbean on linking human rights with climate finance and justice. In Cambodia, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Liberia, Rwanda, South Africa, Tanzania, Tunisia, and beyond, we have supported governments to strengthen labor laws and policies, expand social security coverage, empower workers, and facilitate policy dialogues. In Guatemala, we organized workshops with indigenous women to inform them about their rights and international standards, which helped them participate in discussions on a new water law. In Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Montenegro, Nepal, Peru, and Somalia, we're helping integrate the right to health into laws and policies, advancing access to medicines, vaccines, and healthcare. We are also advancing cultural rights with the Federated States of Micronesia and with civil society in Africa and Southeast Asia. We are strengthening collaboration on cultural rights with national human rights institutions across Africa. We have also supported national human rights institutions in the Gambia and Sri Lanka and anti-corruption authorities in Egypt and Iraq to address the negative impact of corruption on human rights. This year, we released new guidelines on how cities and local governments can realize human rights. I'm encouraged by the growing number of human rights cities around the world, and I invite all local governments to join them. Finally, I'm pleased to report that my office is documenting practices that have a positive impact on human rights through the Knowledge Hub on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which was mandated by this Council. Later this year, my office will launch the Human Rights Knowledge Gateway, an online platform for this hub and the other 2 hubs mandated by this Council. I encourage you to share your challenges and experiences to promote mutual learning so that my office can support you effectively. Distinguished delegates, food, education, decent work, healthcare, adequate housing, clean water, these are not privileges. They are fundamental rights that are crucial for people everywhere to live a decent life. They are the building blocks of just, equal and peaceful societies. Let us renew and redouble our efforts to achieve this vital goal.